Hey there, so you're thinking about making a move to the Beehive state and you're still on the fence. Well, today we're going to be chatting about some of the advantages and disadvantages to making a move here to Utah, and we're going to hop into it right now. Mariah Curla here. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if this is your very first time here. I'm a licensed and active real estate agent here in Utah, and this channel is literally everything you need to know about eating, working, playing, sleeping, and living here in Utah. If that is of interest to you, consider subscribing down below and make sure you tap that bell for notifications so you're notified every week we drop a new video. We hear from people like you all the time who are looking to make a move, who are looking to relocate, buy, sell, build a property here in Utah, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about making a move in a week, in a month, or even a year from now, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. My team and I would love to help you out. And also, if you do want a copy of our free Moving to Utah guide, simply comment down below the word guide, Guide, and we'd love to send that over to you. So many people feel like, and this is, having lived here in Utah for several years now, I get this question a lot of like, Mariah, I can't believe you moved from, where you were living to now where, now that you're in Utah. Give it to me straight. Like, what do you really like? What do you not like? How have things changed over the years? Have they changed? Have they not changed? I literally was sitting watching one of my kids' flag football games the other day, and I sat right next to a mom, and we started talking, and she is born and raised in Utah, and she just was like, oh my gosh, are you from here? And so we had this great conversation, and she's like, okay, it's so interesting because I've always wanted to live out of state, and I've always wanted to live all these different places. But she's like, every time we go somewhere else, I'm always so happy to come back to Utah. And so I was asking her, like, what do you love about it? What do you feel like has changed since you have been here for so many years and born and raised? And so we just kind of walked through all those different things. So today I'm excited to share with you some of those things of advantages from my perspective, from this, mom that's watching her son play flag football just like I was. So some of the advantages that if you are thinking about making a move to Utah, simply the quality of life. I get this one and I hear this one all the time. It feels like it is a slower pace of life compared to some other states. Now a lot of people that like, oh, I moved from Wyoming or Montana. Well, it might feel a lot slower there than it does here in Utah. But if you're coming from the East Coast, I've helped families come from the East Coast, from the West Coast, and everywhere in between. And one of the most common things I hear is, the quality of life. It feels like it's a slower pace. It feels like it's more community oriented, more family friendly, more of those different things. The drive-throughs, going, getting a soda with a, in a drive-through, getting quick casual. You can get a sandwich, you can get a salad, you can get soup, you can get in a drive-through. Which for, some states, they have the other states. People are like, oh, I love that. It was a game changer. I didn't have to load up all my kids and get out of the car, or, whatever that is. So many people love that with the quality of life. The cost of living compared to some states too. Many people love the cost of living in and around Utah. Utilities tend to be less. In terms of housing prices everywhere have, ballooned, but relative to comparing what you're going to get, the, square footage on your home and the acreage and all of that compared to some other places is going to be less. Same thing with property taxes. If it is your primary residence, it's going to be 0.5%. Income tax right now is 4.55%. It's a flat tax. So utilities tend to be less, housing tends to be less, property taxes or income state tax tends to be less than some other states. Again, if the state that you're living in right now doesn't have an income tax or doesn't have a property tax, then that probably doesn't apply to you. But for the most part, that is, that quality of life, the cost of living. People love the outdoors here in Utah. They love the natural beauty. People that come here, they're like, oh, the red rocks are so gorgeous. The mountains are just breathtaking. We love going through the canyons. People love moving here because of the active lifestyle. If you're living more in southern Utah, then you're going to have a more mild temperate climate all year long. And you're going to be out, if you like being outside, you can be outside all year long. If you're in northern Utah, many people, regardless of the weather, people are still running and it's snowing outside. People obviously are skiing and snowboarding and doing all that during the winter time. Some people love the 4 distinct seasons that you experience in northern Utah. Yes, you do have 4 seasons in southern Utah, but it's going to be a little bit less noticeable just because you're not going to see a lot of snow. So people love the seasons, they love the pace of life, the quality of life, the cost of living. So those are, and simply the beauty and the outdoors, huge draw for many people that are looking to make a move here to Utah. Now, as I was sitting here watching my kids' flag football game and I'm chatting with this lady, I was like, what do you think some of the disadvantages are to living in Utah? And so she was, one of the things that she brought up, she's like, oh my gosh, the traffic here has gotten exponentially worse just because of all the growth and all the, the influx of people that have come in. I'm looking at it from a perspective of, moving from California to Utah, and I'm looking at it like, oh my gosh, it doesn't even feel like there's traffic, So I think everything is relative and perspective from where you are coming from. But overall, the traffic, the congestion has considerably gotten worse over the years. Also, some people do not like the 4 distinct seasons. Some people feel like winter is too long and there's too much snow. So depending on that, if you don't like living in a snowy place, maybe northern Utah is not going to be the right fit for you, but maybe southern Utah might be the right fit for you. So kind of gauging that and knowing what you can handle. Some people that are moving from out of state too, and they're saying like, oh, I just don't know if I can do the snow. Here's the thing. Many of the roads in Utah, especially if you are living in and around Salt Lake, they do a really good job of clearing the roads a lot of times too, because especially northern Utah has over 200 sunny days a year. There's a lot of sun, so that sun is going to melt the snow pretty well, unless you're in Park City and you're in the mountains. Then yes, it's going to melt at some point, but you're going to have more of a snowpack and everything that's there too. So just know, depending on where you're living, the higher up the elevation you have, the more snow you're going to have, which also brings me to the altitude. Now, some people that move to Utah, if you're in southern Utah, you're, right around 2,800 feet. If you're up more in Salt Lake City or even in Park City, like Park City, you're more at 7,200 feet. And Salt Lake, you're more at 45, 48, depending on, where you're at. But that altitude can affect people. I know we've had friends that have come to Utah and all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I feel sick. I feel like I have altitude sickness just because of the high altitude. So knowing that, generally it takes a minute for your body to acclimate for that too. So if, I've had people that have reached out, they're like, oh, I have a heart condition or I have these different conditions. Again, consult your doctor, find out if it's going to be a right fit for you. But that can be a disadvantage for some. Although I'm telling you, I have met more runners here in Utah that are like, Utah is the best place to train for everything. That, people love training here in Utah simply because of the elevation and the altitude and all of that. Speaking of which, just a little shout out for the Olympics that will be coming to Utah in, I think it's 10 years from now. So for some people, they're like, oh my gosh, there's actually a lot of chatter already about the Olympics coming to Utah, but that is neither here nor there. I digress. Okay, so let's keep going with some of the disadvantages. Also, if you are more in northern Utah, depending, and in southern Utah, this can be affected. We've experienced, like in California and Idaho and Oregon, there have been a lot of wildfires, and a lot of those wildfires, the smoke will blow into Utah and the air quality is so poor. So sometimes when that smoke blows in, it will stick around for a while before a storm blows it out. Same thing with the inversion. You're in more northern Utah, in and around Salt Lake City, we'll get an inversion. Usually during the winter time, it's kind of this thick, smoggy air, and it just sits in the valley until, again, a storm blows it out. But so that air quality, depending on the time of year, depending on the wildfires and what's happening, you can see some of that. So hopefully this gives you an idea. Northern, southern, Utah overall, like I said, people love living in Utah for the quality of, the good quality of life, family friendly, good communities, so many different outdoor activities, the 4 distinct seasons if you're in northern Utah, the milder climate if you're in southern Utah and activities all year long. But again, some of the disadvantages, the air quality, the weather, those 4 distinct seasons can be an advantage. It can be a disadvantage for some, the altitude, just knowing what's best for you. But if you are thinking about making a move here to Utah, to the Beehive State, plan your trip. Plan your trip to come on out, whether it's for a weekend, whether it's during the week. Plan a few days so you can get an idea of whether or not Utah is the right fit for you. And if you are on the fence wanting to know more, feel free to reach out to my team and I. We hear from people like you all the time, and we absolutely love it. Feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, and if you do want a copy of our free Moving to Utah guide, comment down below the word guide, and we would love to send that over to you. Wishing you a fantastic rest of your day and week, and we'll chat with you soon. Take care. Have a great one. Bye.